This is a little shop update. This is a solenoid valve that I took out of my truck for that fuel tank. Now this is the original solenoid valve, and it kept leaking. And where it was leaking is in between this bushing that goes from 1/2 inch down to 3/8 pipe thread. So it's a 1/2 inch male to 3/8 female, and then there's a 3/8 hose adapter, national pipe thread to hose on it. Now it leaked on this side. I'm not sure that it didn't leak on the other. Well, it didn't leak on the other side because that's the downstream. This would be the side coming from the tank, so the solenoid valve would be normally closed and there would be pressure, but it's just gravity pressure out of what was in the tank. Now what I did is, not knowing what it was, because I didn't want to take the solenoid valve out of the truck, I just got another solenoid valve. The new solenoid valve, I got new adapters for it and everything. So again, it's 1/2 inch to 3/8. And the new solenoid valve, these bushings didn't make in all the way because they bottomed out, because national pipe thread is tapered. As you can see, this one bottomed out, and this is where it was leaking, is in between that bushing and this thing. And I got it as tight as I dared to take it, but the problem is the thing bottomed out. And as you can see, there was diesel fuel in there. So what happened is this solenoid valve, and I'm going to say it's a solenoid valve. This is the solenoid valve. These threads are way too big in here. Either that or they're not tapered, because you can screw this thing in almost all the way by hand without it bottoming out, and you shouldn't be able to do that with a pipe thread. Typically a pipe thread, you should only be able to screw it in 3 turns by hand. You get 3 full turns out of it before it stops, before you start tightening it up. And that's what happened with the new solenoid valve. I got approximately 3 turns, and then I tightened it up on it, and it's holding just fine. But this solenoid valve, Senya, the solenoid valve as part of it worked fine. The problem is that the threads on the body of the thing are just way too deep, and the bushing, you couldn't get it to hold because the threads in the housing are way too deep. But anyways, enough of that. I'll show you my truck. I've got the new one in there, and I'm not having any issues with it. I'll pull the cover off and I'll let you see it tight on the new one. The threads probably are like that, and it's tight. It's a good tapered thread on it. Again, nothing wrong with the solenoid portion of the valve. It's the threads on the thing that are way too deep. I just wanted to show you something. I found this 1/2 inch malleable iron elbow laying around, and as you can see, if you take this thing that I just took out of there and screw it in, let me get it started. There, it started. So not even getting 3 full turns out of it, but as you can see, it bottoms out, and then you would have to tighten it from there. Now that's a good pipe thread because it's tapered and it's not too loose. I just wanted to prove that it wasn't the bushings that were bad. It's actually this valve that's bad. And I don't know whether they're all like that. I'll bring you back. As I show this valve, the information on this valve, there's a couple of things that I just want to say. One of the things is, you're probably wondering why, if those threads bottomed out to begin with, why I used it. Well, I had gotten the valve. I needed to get it installed to be able to use that tank to make a little trip, and you know, I just, even though it bottomed out, and I kind of knew that in the back of my mind that it wasn't going to work, you know, having been in the piping industry for my career, most of my adult life, I should have known better. But again, I had bought the valve, needed to get it installed, needed to use it to get it installed, and didn't want to have to go through the hassle of waiting to send the damn thing back and get another one, only to find out maybe that didn't work. So I kind of thought, under gravity feed with only like 2 feet of head, that it might have held, put in enough pipe dope on it, but I was wrong, and I should have known better. But again, I needed to get it used. So I bought that new valve, and let me tell you, with the new valve that works so far, I mean, the pipe threads work, the solenoid works, it functions properly, was only half the price of this valve to begin with. So I kind of wish I had found that valve to begin with, paid half the price for it, and not had any of the hassles. So could I have made this thing work? Of course, I probably could have made it work. What I probably could have done is seated some O-rings in there or something, and butted up those bushings against the O-rings and made it work under head pressure. Might have been a little more complicated to do it under pressure, but again, I probably could have made it work. Should I have had to gone through that hassle to make it work? Absolutely not. So here is that valve, and I'll put the model number and everything in the description of it. But I've got to tell you, the other thing that I wanted to mention is, I emailed these people. I looked up their the company on the web, and they had a contact thing where you could send them information, or send them a request about a valve. And I put it in there that I had had problems with it. I had bought it, and the pipe threads were bad, and I have gotten no response as of yet. And that was like over a day ago. So let's. I'm going to say, you know, if you see this valve on eBay or in a store to buy, my recommendation is to not use it. That's a solenoid valve installed in the box in the truck, and as you can see, those bushings, how with a tapered thread, they don't go in all the way, and that's the way it's supposed to be, just like it is actually there too, where it's screwed in, the bushing is screwed into the quick connect. But there it is, and as you can see, it's not leaking. Valve is on. Now the tank is only probably a third full, but again, it's not leaking. So there it is. I'll bring you back for other stuff.